Hello, everyone, and welcome to Young at Heart, number 158. I'm Father James DeLucio with the Paulist Fathers here in our parlor, ready, willing, and able to offer you nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, and such and other things to keep you and me young at heart, with energy, optimism, and the wisdom of children who know that when you do something wrong, there's bound to be consequences. And when you do something right, many good things can happen. We need to keep that always at the heart of our minds, don't we? To remain optimistic and energetic and enthusiastic in addressing the challenges of our days. Today's story, again, from African American folktales, and if you're joining me for the first time, this marvelous collection has been edited with introductions and notes by the great Henry Louis Gates Jr., professor, doctor, a PhD, in African American history and other things, often seen on PBS. By the way, it was on last month, but you can access it online on the story of the Reconstruction after the Civil War and how it started out so many great possibilities for African Americans and how it devolved into ongoing systemic racism. Food for thought. Also edited by Maria Tatter, I guess you pronounce her name. She is an academic on fairy tales and folklore. So we're in good hands reading these notes and explanations that I sometimes share with you. Enough! The story of Demane and Demazana. I repeat, the story of Demane and Demazana, and you are going to recognize its European parallels right away, I think. Once upon a time, there lived a brother and a sister who were twins and orphans. They decided to run away from their relatives because they had been treated so badly. The boy was named Demane, and the girl Demazana. They discovered a cave with 2 holes in it to let in light and air, and that was where they lived. A strong door fastened from the inside protected the cave. Demane went out hunting during the daytime, and he told his sister that she must not roast any meat while he was away. The savory smell might attract the cannibals who lived nearby and bring them to their dwelling. The girl would have been quite safe had she obeyed her brother's command, but she was wayward, and one day she took some buffalo meat and she roasted it over a fire. A cannibal named Zim smelled the meat, and he went to the cave, but he found the door tight shut. He tried to imitate Demane's voice, and he asked to be admitted, but Demazana said, "No, you aren't my brother. Your voice is not at all like his." The cannibal went away, but after a while he returned. This time he spoke in a different voice. "Do let me in, sister." The girl replied, "Go away, you wicked cannibal. Your voice is hoarse. You are not my brother." The cannibal left and soon met up with another cannibal, whom he asked, "What do I have to do to obtain what I want?" Now, he was afraid to say exactly what he wanted because he feared that the other cannibal might want a share of the girl. His friend said, You must burn your throat with a hot iron." He did so, and then he no longer had a hoarse voice. The cannibal presented himself at the door of the cave, and this time he succeeded in fooling the girl. She believed that her brother had returned from hunting, and she opened the door. The cannibal grabbed her. While the cannibal was carrying her off, the girl dropped some ashes from the fire here and there along the path. Not much later, Demane, who had found nothing that day but a swarm of bees, returned and found that his sister was gone. He figured out what had happened, and he also found the ashes, and he followed the path to Zim's hut. The cannibal's family was out gathering firewood for their feast, but Zim had stayed home. Demazana was kept prisoner in a big sack, where Zim planned to keep her until the fire was ready. Demane said to Zim, "Sir, give me some water, please." Zim replied, "I will if you promise not to touch this sack over there." Demane promised. Zim went out to get some water, and while he was gone, Demane took his sister out of the sack and put in the bees. Then the children hid. When Zin returned with the water, his wife and son and daughter were also back with the firewood. Zin said to his daughter, "There's something nice for you in this sack. Go and get it." Zim's daughter opened it, and all at once a bee flew out of the bag and stung her in her hand. She cried out, "Something's biting me!" Zim sent his son, and after that his wife, but the same thing happened. Zim was furious, and he drove everyone out of the hut. He put a block of wood against the door, and he opened the sack for himself. Bees came swarming out and stung his head, aiming at his eyes until he couldn't see anything at all. There was a small opening in the thatched roof, and Zim forced his way through, and once outside, he began jumping up and down and howling with pain. Then he ran blindly ahead, and he fell headlong into a pond where his head stuck fast into the mud. He turned into a block of wood that looked just like the stump of a tree, and the bees made their home in the stump. No one could steal their honey, because if anyone stuck his hand in, they would not be able to get it back again. Demane and Demazana took all of Zim's possessions, which were great in number, and they returned home and soon became very wealthy people. There you have it. So you might put in the commentary all the parallel stories that you discerned as we were reading the story of the orphan twins, Demane and Demazana. There we go. Hope you enjoyed it today. If you would like to linger for another moment, I'll read you Henry Gates and Maria Tatar's footnote. This was written down as a Kafir nursery story, but kafir is now considered a derogatory term for the Xhosa, Xhosa, Xhosa people. The tale was recorded in a monthly magazine published in Cape Town. Its preface elaborated on the cultural context for tales to children. Now look at this. This is interesting. Well, don't look at it. I'm not going to show it to you. Listen to this. Many ancient dames pride themselves upon an extensive knowledge of such stories, and from them little children hear them as soon as almost they begin to lisp. The girls retain them in their memory and frequently laugh over them in year after year. But the boys are different. Knowledge derived from women, even be that woman his grandmother or his mother, is lightly esteemed by the Xhosa man, and these stories soon came to be considered by the lads as old woman's fables quite unworthy of their notice. The anonymous collector of the tale selected it just simply because of its reference to cannibals. Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame? Another aspect of misogyny in a culture that's not European. Surprising. Unfortunately, we find this misogyny and also this kind of patriarchal in almost every civilization on the planet. What a terrible thing to have in common with everybody. And yet, we're making progress for the equality of men and women and to value women's folk tales as much, if not even more. At times it depends on the story, as those handed down from this male element. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy this as we're coming already to the end of summer. I hope you're enjoying some leisurely time. If you're working at home, make sure you're taking that day or two off. And in my book, everyone should have 2 days off, completely off, to really be refreshed and refurbished for all the conflicts of our times. God bless everyone. Thanks for joining me. I hope you liked the story.